Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. This is Legit Agents. Today, another fun one. Maybe I'm biased, but we're going to be talking about some killer buyer presentation tips.
Super important. Let's check it out. What's up, guys? We are the Legit Agents. I'm Eli Schmidt. This is my partner, Will Grimes. And if it's your first time checking this channel out, guys, make sure you subscribe. Hit the button below along with the notification bell, because every Tuesday and Thursday, we're dropping top-tier real estate training for you to build a brand and find success in this modern real estate market.
100%. And we are licensed brokers. And yes, we are looking at teaming up with more agents to help build their brand and their business. So if that's something for you, that number popping up below, we are the guys who answer the phone calls and the text messages. We're also the guys who answer the emails. But with that being said, let's talk about it. Something that is super underrated. I'm not sure why it's underrated, but we're going to be talking about it. And it's killer tips for your buyer presentation. Something we had it like in the Marine Corps when I was going through some special operations command training, some different specific schools to that. One of the schoolhouses had this placard as you would walk through the door outside the schoolhouse, and it said, "High speed is being brilliant at the basics." And I remember seeing that, like, probably a little bit of ego because I'm a young Marine. Like, I think I'm doing a good job. It was just like, what? Like, you don't come this far to be basic, right? But then once you start realizing all of the basic fundamentals that apply and go into everything that you're doing, and if you can be super proficient at all of them without falter, regardless of circumstances, you're pretty high speed. And as I matured, I started realizing that. So I think I brought some of that maturity into the real estate world. And yes, there are some basic fundamentals that you should be applying to your business. And it's not just for you and like what you think of it, but it's also to remember buyers and sellers, like, they don't do this as much as we do this, right? Some of us do this more than others, right? Be as it may, but the bottom line is a lot of reminders are just current updates about the market or how to approach something when you're selling or buying a home. Yes, it tends to change, or people have just never done it before at all. And you don't want to assume that they might know some things. And I think the biggest thing that would fall in communication that we've seen in real estate and with the military is if everybody's not on the same page prior to mission, confusion during emotion can be very bad. Commonality in real estate, if people are not on the same page during like a super emotional time, like going under contract or submitting offers and getting competitive, or going through an inspection objection, or just going through an inspection and what to be looking for there. Confusion during an emotional state for buyers and sellers, it's just not good. It's not a good place to be, and you can definitely mitigate a lot of this by just prepping yourself and planning ahead, which again, so long story long, yes, your buyer presentation is super important. It establishes you as an advisor, shows how professional you are, also gives your clients another time, in addition to your video and everything else, gives you another time to sit down and be professional and articulate appropriately and just show that you're here to help them throughout the phase, not just say that, but you're going through something and you're showing them that.
So let's call that our first tip, guys, is that don't underestimate the power of a good buyer presentation. And guys, we hear this stuff from clients real time. Like, a lot of our business actually comes from people who may have been started working with another agent, and they're just getting beat out on houses. They're complaining to a buddy or somebody at the gym or something about their agent, and they're like, "Hey, you got to talk to these dudes, the Mile High Property Brothers." So they call us as kind of these refugee clients, I call them, and time and time again, we hear them say, once we sit them down, we go over our buyer presentation. Even if they've made 30 offers on homes, we're still seeing them down going over buyer preso. And they tell us, "Guys, I've learned more in the 30 minutes of going through this buyer presentation with you guys than I've ever learned about real estate in all the homes I've ever bought."
Right, and sometimes, guys, just being fully transparent, when we get these clients and they've got complaints about their realtor, it's not even that the realtor was wrong or was doing anything wrong. They had like a right approach or a right tactic as far as like what they want to do as far as submitting home offers on homes. It's more so that the clients just didn't understand the context and the design of like why you were doing what you were doing, created confusion. They didn't win an offer, they didn't win several offers, and maybe that client wasn't going all in like you needed them to, but they also didn't understand why. And us as leaders leading clients, it's on us. So once we explain those things and it's more clear, well, then they are going all in, they are participating like they should be, and then it goes well. But again, It's all credit to just making sure that there's context. And if you guys have questions on a full buyer prezo, that's probably a video that would run about an hour and a half to explain to you guys. If you guys have questions on that, or yes, if you're teamed up with us, you get a lot of that stuff for free, and you get our time one-on-one to sit down and go over those things. But let's talk about at least 3 major categories as far as what you should be covering during that time. And one of the main ones is it sounds simple, but especially for you new realtors, and depending on the price point of where you're at and what that people qualify for, you want to be covering expenses, right? So earnest money, what is earnest money? Each phase of how to protect your earnest money, which you cover in a full buyer's prezo. But more importantly for now, earnest money. Yes, that they're actually going to deposit that check, right, through title or through escrow.
That's a surprise to a lot of people if you're not telling them.
And you can laugh at clients all you want, but they don't know, right? So explaining that, yes, that earnest money check does get deposited. You do have to have funds really available for wherever you gave that earnest money check to. And then just typical expenses like your appraisal, typical inspections. Like here in Colorado, you've got a radon inspection, your typical inspection,
sewer scope
inspection,
yep.
and yes, those are gonna cost you before closing out of pocket.
And that's a good point too, because the last thing you want, let's just use Colorado where we are, for example, apply this to your state, is let's say you're working with a California client. You won offers, you're under contract, now you have inspections coming up, and they're freaking out about maybe why you're not doing a termite inspection or maybe why you're not doing a mold inspection. Colorado, we don't have termites. Our general inspectors are looking for pests and things like that. They're looking for mold and things like that, but there's no dedicated tests that we do right out of the gate. If you're not telling your client that, they may think that you missed it, that you're uninformed, and maybe they're trying to throw something in last minute to try and get that done, and it's just making the deal not as smooth as it could be.
They don't know what they don't know, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So as you're covering that, as far as like, hey, here's some expected costs you might have, but hey, in addition to that, these are your typical suggested upon inspections you should be getting in Colorado. So again, it covers costs, but also just covers, if they're new to an area, what should they be looking for? Because maybe they're coming from Colorado and they're moving to Florida. Yeah, you guys have the termite inspection.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe the foundation stuff is a little bit more important down there since you guys are like half in the water compared to where we're at in Colorado, where structurally we're pretty good here. But again, this also gives you guys an opportunity when you're doing your buyer prezo to just have this conversation through several steps, but it breaks the ice. It gets everybody to get to know each other a little bit better. You're definitely going to peg some clients and find out where their concerns or where they're a little bit more uptight or uneducated on, and it helps you prepare them even better. Because some of these phases that you'll cover in a buyer prezo might just get more attention than another based off of what your clients need. But definitely strong tip: earnest money, other common expenses with appraisal and inspections and all that good stuff. I don't know why. Expenses and inspections are like messing me up today.
Any one of those names with a Lynn after it?
Yes.
I got you. Okay. Brandy Lynn, Heather Lynn,
Tammy Lynn.
Moving forward, let's keep rolling with it. What you also want to do with your buyer presentation, and we'll build this out. We do this a lot in our private Facebook group, and we've also covered it in some private Zoom calls. If you have not gone to our private Facebook group, it's Legit Agents. Go in there, request to be a part of that. We have done this video in there before for some of our agents, but it's going over your major phases, right? So in addition to earnest money and then, hey, here's some expenses, that's one of our phases that we cover during one of our buyer prezos. But no matter what, you want to cover those phases, and most importantly is because, like, let's use submitting offers for an example. What's most important about submitting an offer, or more important than submitting the offer, is educating your clients on, hey, here's what it looks like when we're submitting offers, right? Whether we're seeing a home on a Friday and they're not accepting offers until Monday, or they're first come, first serve, there's always like this competitive window as far as when the acceptance starts coming through from a seller. And a lot of times you'll get a counter, right? Or you'll have somebody just want you to resubmit. And prior to that, as you submit your offer, you're having your lender call, right? And make sure that they understand that offer and any appraisal gaps or anything, other contingencies that are on there are readily available and approved for from this buyer, right? You have the conversation. You're also finding out what are they looking for. Do they need a post occupancy? In addition to highest and best, how can we help your client best as a buyer, right? You're explaining all these things to your buyer, and you're letting them know, like, hey, even if we submit on a Friday, if they're not accepting until Monday, or if it's as first come, first serve, or a 24-hour acceptance deadline is okay, you're going to fall into these windows where it gets super competitive and everything feels rushed, right? Because they're going to be countering us or asking us to resubmit something or asking questions. And then, hey, if we're okay with it, the deal's ours. And you might find yourself rushing a little bit, even when you're talking to your clients. So when that moment comes for you, make sure that you've got poise and patience and you're managing your own emotion. However, before that even happens, at your buyer prezo, you're explaining to your clients, hey, this is going to be a super fast window, but the number one thing we want to remind you guys of is, hey, listen, you're not married to the home, right? And then you can talk about the different phases. You've got your inspection time, you've got HOA docs, you've got insurance, you've got inspection, right? You've got appraisal, you've got several different phases depending on where you guys are at with your state and all that. As far as like due diligence for a buyer to do, and if they want to pass on the home, they can get their earnest money back and move on to the next house. But the number one thing you want to let them know is, hey, you're not married to the home. This just means you're picking our offer, or if we resubmit, or if we sign this counter, that they want to work with us. And as long as the home is what they say it is, and it's worth what they say it's worth, then great, we've got a deal and we're going to move forward. This is literally one of the number one statements I talk to clients about every time, because when we're at that phase and we're submitting offers and we're getting competitive with tools, right? Appraisal gaps, escalation clauses, post occupancies. It doesn't sound like I'm just throwing everything at them to win an offer so I can get a commission. It sounds like I've educated them, and we're utilizing tools based off of seller needs to just be the best version of ourselves moving forward and present the best offer possible so we can win. And then we win, and it feels fresh, and we let them know. We don't talk to them about anything else that night. When we call to congratulate them, we literally say, hey, listen, have a beer, have a glass of wine, relax, enjoy yourself. Tomorrow, we're going to talk. Hey, we'll give you a call, and we'll talk about where earnest money is going to go, and we're going to get some inspections scheduled. Yes, we've already talked to them about this at the buyer presentation, so we're just reminding them of what's next, but it's literally, congratulations, enjoy your evening. We'll be in touch in the morning when it comes to earnest money, where it's got to go, and your inspections. Cool? But just relax and enjoy it, and remember, we're not married to the home. We've still got plenty of due diligence to happen before this thing is a done deal, but great job. I always compliment them. Hey, great job with being assertive, great job making a decision, great job just doing what you had to do in order to like put this great offer together and ultimately winning your home, your future home. But listen, we've got plenty of due diligence left before moving forward. So that just allows them to have some reassurance so the next day they're not freaking out that they just bought a house, because we haven't. And we've got more than enough phases to protect their earnest money before we've got a done deal.
Yeah, if you guys are finding that your clients are either hesitant to put in offers, they're trying to do way too much due diligence and they're just missing out on that competitive period, or they're the one telling you the offer that they're going to submit without even your consultation or your advisement first, I promise, rewind. This is the part that you really need to focus on your buyer presentation, because you're skipping this. This part right here will solve all of those problems for you.
And guys, we've got several high-end, extremely professional, business-owning CEO clients. And the number one thing that lets me know we're doing a great job is they ask us questions. So they're not mute. They don't just listen to everything we say. They have questions even during the process. Hey, Will, what do you think of this? Hey, Will, I kind of want to do this, or I'm kind of thinking of this. What do you think?
Yep.
But they still ask us what we think so we can advise appropriately, which means they respect that advisement that we're giving in the first place, and we did a good job on their front end with the buyer prezo. And guys, I cannot express enough. It's all just so you can remind them of this process, right? Which leads me to my last point. You've got to make sure that you remind and do great follow-up through the process. So once your buyer prezo or listing prezo, we do listing prezos as well, but once your buyer prezo is done, as you hit each and every phase, there should be those friendly reminders of, hey, here's what we've got coming up, or hey, here's where we're at. Guys, I just want to express to you now that we're submitting offers, hey, this weekend, we could be getting some calls back. It could get a little fast, right? We could feel a little pinched for time, but remember, we're not married to the home. But hey, I just want to make sure you guys are okay to be on call, because if we get something sooner than later, I would love to be as assertive as possible for those sellers so we can end up winning you this home. Cool, right? And it's just about winning that offer. And then when you get to inspections, well, we've prepped them for what are the typical inspections that we get here in Colorado. What should we be looking out for? What's super concerning? What's not? What might look bad but really isn't bad, like radon. Radon sounds terrible, but it's almost completely mitigatable with a radon mitigation system, right? So things that you might worry about, let's not overly worry about. And then we also talk about the etiquette of what you should be looking for during inspection to put on an inspection objection in the first place, right? During our buyer prezo. So once we get to that inspection and that inspection gets emailed over, they're not freaking out about the 40-page inspection report, because they understand even a brand new home is going to have 40 pages of inspection items because that inspector represents you and he's just here to show you everything, every nook and cranny of your house. Doesn't mean you throw it on an objection. It just means, hey, here's every little hangnail that this house has. So if you ever want to make improvements for yourself, here's where you can start. But we focus on etiquette-wise, what's typical for submitting something on an inspection objection. So once we actually get to the inspection objection, that reminder goes out, we're having a conversation, and we never have an inspection objection that's just terrible. And if there are things on there that would be terrible if we were to submit them, guys, believe it or not, our clients end up making a great decision and just not buying the home. If it's that bad, if there's just that much, make a better decision to go win a better home. But we definitely are notorious for not having a ton of things on the inspection objection because buyers understand the etiquette toward that. And through licensed inspectors, what should I worry about? What should I not worry about? We do a great job between ourselves and licensed inspectors of articulating what should we be concerned with and what sounds concerning but is not concerning, but hey, on a report it gets wordy, right? But having your licensed inspectors that do a lot of your work, having them understand that, having them there and available to explain things to buyers could not be more valuable. And again, it's reminding of what happens during your buyer pre-sale. So once you get there, there's no knee-jerk reactions. There's no overly emotional things. And if someone has to break off from a home, it's also not emotional because they understand the risk that they're taking if they keep it.
Now, the last thing I want to stress here, guys, is that all of this, hopefully you've been taking notes, you've been absorbing all this, hopefully you've joined our private Facebook group over at The Legit Agents and Facebook. Here's what I want to stress. All of this, and I've seen this happen time and time again with agents, when you get a friend that you're working with, when you get a family member, when you get somebody,
I already know where you're going.
A client that maybe intimidates you a little bit. They've bought a bunch of homes. Maybe they're looking for a high price home and they're just that a really, really successful person. It is so easy to bypass this part of it and think, oh, they're my family, I'll do this later. They're my friend, or maybe they're just intimidating and they're successful. They bought a bunch of real estate and you think they don't need this. Guys, biggest mistake ever. It is so easy to skip this if it's just somebody in your sphere or that you're intimidated by. Don't. Those are the people that need it the absolute most because they're friend zoned already and they're going to try and run the show. And if you don't do this, guys, it could really affect your friendship. It affects the deal a ton.
Well, if there's disagreements when it's emotional, you are going to get blamed, right? Remember, like the closer you are to somebody, the more easy it is to blame you. But the bottom line is, you just don't want to skip anything because you also want to make sure that you cover every single step so they're educated regardless of their level of history. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So if they bought 10 homes but they've never had an issue, chances are if you don't cover it, that one thing they've never dealt with before will be on the house you submit an offer on. But more importantly, if you want to be respected, if you want to be a professional, if you want to learn how to articulate appropriately and be in that advisory role, like, guys, you got to earn it, right? It's not, and if you've got low dollar clients that are not low dollar, but just less affordable clients, whatever that is, like, hey, those are great reps, but as you get into these higher dollar clients, right? Like our average is $765 and higher for myself and Eli personally. The system and process has not changed, right? Like, don't forget what gets you there in the first place. And as a matter of fact, higher dollar folks, they expect
They'll
a
appreciate
buyer
it
pre-sale.
more.
Believe it or not, like you'll have somebody expect some things and they will appreciate how organized and professional you are. And that you're not running. Do you guys understand like why we show a client every single opportunity they have to fall out of contract on a home? Because if we pass every single phase and everything gets taken care of and mitigated appropriately to their satisfaction, then they have a great purchase and they don't have buyer remorse. And if they're a smart buyer, they're not going to buy anyway, whether you advise them or not. And you know what they're also not going to buy into? You. More importantly, so if you fall out of contract on that home, you might not be getting a call back to work with them. So most important thing is to just be a professional and establish that you're an advisor by just earning it and articulating it and giving them a system and a process to follow as you guys move forward. That's all we got for today.
That's it.
Right? We're excited to help you guys. We always get jazzed up when we're talking to brokers. And yes, we still are licensed brokers and we are still teaming up with everyone around the country. So if that's for you, if you want to look at building your business and building your brand, you've got questions on that, we would love to hear from you. So that number popping back up below. We are the guys who answer the phone calls and the text messages. Also the guys who answer the emails.
That's right.
Like it if you like it. Subscribe. Until next video. See you guys soon.
See ya.